We've got a billionaire Prime Minister and a billionaire Prime Minister, both of whose families have used schemes to avoid millions of pounds of tax, smearing a working-class woman.
And I took the decision that we would take the hard decisions first. I think anybody who's turned around, I don't know, an organisation or a business.
Mr. Speaker, I'm privileged to be the proud owner of a copy of the former Prime Minister's new book. It's a rare, unsigned copy.
Keir Starmer is exploding with rage as his carefully constructed political facade crumbles. Reports reveal a man unraveling at the seams, lashing out at advisers while desperately scrambling to explain Labour's humiliating defeats. The recent UK local elections weren't just a setback, they were a brutal reckoning that has shattered Starmer's confidence. As Reform UK surges with 677 new councillors and the Lib Dems leapfrog Labour into second place nationally, we're witnessing nothing short of a political earthquake that Starmer never saw coming. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now back to the video. What if Starmer's greatest blunder wasn't something he said, but something he took away from millions of vulnerable pensioners? The winter fuel payment cuts have emerged as the defining issue that's tearing Labour apart at the seams.
And rather than sit around, we've got them all together today to talk to Angela and to me and to Rachel Reid.
We will continue to work, as we have done in the 4 months in government, on issues of security, our economy and global conflict.
Going to turn something around, you have to do the hard yards up front. Don't look at a tough decision and then leave it for a year or two. So we're doing the tough stuff.
Look no further than Runcorn and Helsby, where Labour faced humiliating defeat as Reform UK overturned their majority of almost 15,000. A previously safe seat now lost. The contrast between Starmer's pre-election promises and his actions in government couldn't be more stark. He pledged to protect vulnerable people, then promptly stripped £300 from 10 million pensioners during a cost of living crisis. This wasn't just a policy misstep, it was a betrayal that's costing Labour dearly. Even Starmer's own MPs are publicly turning against him. Dan Carden, leader of the Blue Labour group, admitted, "The winter fuel cut was the wrong choice and people have not forgiven the government for it." Rachel Maskell directly blamed the cuts for their losses, urging the Prime Minister to reverse the policy immediately. The cruel reality is that pensioners with weekly incomes below £227, 10 pence for singles, or £346, 60 pence for couples qualify for pension credit, leaving millions in a dangerous financial gap, where they earn too much for benefits but too little to absorb the loss of winter fuel payments. This policy catastrophe created the perfect storm, alienating older voters while simultaneously shattering Starmer's carefully crafted image of competence and compassion. Footage of pensioners describing how they'll struggle to heat their homes this winter stands in sharp contrast to Starmer's dismissive responses. Inside Labour, sources reveal advisers warned against the cuts, but were ignored by an increasingly isolated leadership team. What began as a technical budget decision has transformed into a symbol of broken trust that's costing them at the ballot box. Nigel Farage recognised this vulnerability immediately, targeting affected pensioners with messaging that's fueling Reform UK's remarkable rise. What happens when a party dismissed as a protest vote suddenly controls 10 councils and seats 677 councillors across the country? Reform UK has transformed from political afterthought to main event, capturing councils previously considered untouchable, Labour and Conservative strongholds. The media's dismissal of Reform UK as a temporary protest movement looks increasingly foolish against their systematic gains across diverse geographic and demographic areas. While pundits wrote them off, Reform methodically built support in forgotten communities where traditional parties have failed to deliver. The Conservatives experienced a devastating collapse, losing 18 councils and seeing hundreds of councillors wiped out in a single night. Once reliable Tory areas now sit firmly in Reform's column, leaving the Conservatives decimated and now the party of panic. Labour fared little better, shedding 189 councillors, despite the perfect opportunity to capitalise on Conservative weakness. Their gains were mere scraps, as they didn't gain meaningful ground in areas they should have dominated given the government's unpopularity. Meanwhile, the Liberal Democrats quietly leapfrogged Labour into second place nationally, gaining 163 seats and control of 3 councils through strategic targeting of specific demographics and regions. Nigel Farage's evolution from political outsider to serious prime ministerial contender is perhaps most remarkable. Once dismissed as a fringe figure, he now stands at the centre of British politics, standing tall as voters increasingly see him as the only authentic voice among establishment politicians. Inside Labour headquarters, reports describe scenes of fury and rage as Reform UK's gains became clear on election night. The panic was palpable as the reality sank in. This wasn't a protest vote, but a fundamental realignment of British politics. The two-party system is officially on life support, and Starmer's reaction to this earthquake would prove explosive. What does it look like when a man who built his entire career on appearing calm and reasonable finally loses control? Behind closed doors, Labour insiders describe Starmer's explosive rage reactions as election results poured in. One aide reported watching him shouting at senior advisors, throwing papers across the room when he learned of Reform UK's surge in former Labour strongholds. The contrast between Starmer's public persona and private behaviour could not be more striking. While cameras capture his measured tone and controlled demeanour, those closest to him witness a leader increasingly prone to emotional outbursts when challenged. The election delivered what sources call a brutal reckoning for Starmer. Each Conservative council lost was initially celebrated, until the realisation set in that Labour wasn't the primary beneficiary. The Conservatives were decimated, losing hundreds of councillors in a single night. Yet Labour failed to capitalise on this collapse. Inside Labour's inner circle, a toxic atmosphere of recrimination has developed. Rachel Williams, a senior strategist, described meetings where allies turn on each other as Starmer seeks scapegoats for the party's poor performance. The finger-pointing intensifies with each new poll. Publicly, Starmer tells voters, "We get it," regarding their concerns, yet privately he refuses to reverse the winter fuel payment cuts despite warnings from his team. This contradiction reveals a leader more concerned with appearing strong than actually listening. Body language experts analysing recent interviews note Starmer's increased blinking rate, defensive posture, and tendency to interrupt, all stress indicators suggesting a man losing his composure. Most concerning for Labour, Starmer's tricks aren't working anymore, and voters simply aren't buying into vague platitudes. As Reform UK continues its rise and his leadership faces mounting questions, the fundamental issue remains. Can a party succeed when its leader's carefully constructed facade is crumbling under pressure? The political landscape in Britain has fundamentally shifted, with Reform UK now standing as more than just a protest vote. As Starmer stubbornly defends his winter fuel payment cuts, he faces a crisis entirely of his own making. The pensioners who'll struggle through the coming cold months won't forget who took £300 from their pockets. Starmer now faces an impossible choice: reverse course and admit failure, or stand firm as his support continues to erode. The traditional two-party system faces unprecedented disruption, with Reform UK positioned to capitalise on widespread disillusionment. The question isn't whether change is coming to British politics, but how dramatic that change will be.